Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for the work that you and the Advanced Water Heating Initiative do to help spread the word. We had a bunch of people. We're not in competition with one another. We have a vested interest in helping each other. Maine has made more mistakes, I'm sure, than anyone in the country on pushing heat pump water heaters, and it gives me makes me feel good knowing that we can share with you some of our learning, so you don't have to make the mistakes that we have. If we go to the next slide, I'll just try and the next slide after this, just give you a feel for who Efficiency Maine is. We are a quasi-state agency. We run all the energy efficiency programs in Maine for all fuels. No one else runs energy efficiency programs in Maine. We're funded various ways, electric ratepayers. We have something called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in the Northeast, which is a cap and trade initiative, and the funding for that comes to us. We're funded by federal grants and other sources. And we offer four things. We offer rebates, we offer financing, we offer technical information, and we have a database of 600 independent installers so that we can inspire Mainers to invest in energy efficiency. As far as water heaters, we have rebated over 60,000 heat pump water heaters in a state that only has 180,000 residential water heaters in the whole state. We have close to 600,000 homes, but most of the water is heated by forced hot water boilers that heat the house and heat the water as an additional role. But of the water heaters that are just plain water heaters, a third of them are heat pump water heaters, and heat pump water heaters are the #1 selling water heater in the state. We go to the next slide. The program's not that fancy. It's any Energy Star heat pump water heater qualifies. Any channel, you can buy it at a Maine retailer, out-of-state retailer if you want, distributors, buy it online, have it mailed to your house if you want. There's no restriction there. We've learned from Francois Lebrasseur, who I think is on this call, that instant discount is what works. We also simultaneously offer a mail-in rebate, as the folks in Vermont figured out and taught us. You can offer instant discount and mail-in rebate at the same time and not have any double dipping. They figured it out and taught us, and we've done it with great success. I'm going to say it a second time, instant discount is the way to go. And lastly, we're statewide. Because we're a state organization, we don't have to figure out which utility a customer is with. If you're in Maine, you're eligible. That's the program design. It's nothing really fancy. The clever twist is what Vermont figured out, which is to do both instant and mail-in at the same time. 95% of participants in our program use the instant discount, but we do have a combination for mail-in for people that buy some other way. Next slide. We've had good success. We're rebating about 10,000 heat pump water heaters each year. That's roughly 1 out of every 14 in the country coming to Maine, and we have 1.4 million Mainers, not a lot of people. About half the electric water heaters sold in Maine are now heat pump water heaters. US EPA unit shipment report says the US market share is 3%, so we've been able to move the needle significantly. And I'm jumping to the fourth bullet. We just finished an experiment, which is what I wanted to share with you folks. It's new for us. We think we may have figured out half of the early retirement mystery or challenge, I should say, with a promotion that just ended last month. Let's go on the next slide. I'll talk about the format I want to try and use. We use a mnemonic, which my team hates, but MEMC. It stands for M is for motivating incentives. We're lucky to be well funded, and you'll see what we do for incentives there. The E stands for easy. It's probably just as important to make a program easy as it is to have a motivating incentive. They go hand in hand. The second M stands for marketed. And if you have a great program, an attractive program that's easy to participate in, and no one knows, it really doesn't matter. So that's very, very important. And this is the format I'm going to use to go through my slides. The fourth letter is S, stands for supported. We're lucky enough to have Clear Result administering our program. They do a fabulous job, which we're going to get into, supporting manufacturers, retailers, distributors, installers, and homeowners. And the I stands for improving, or constantly improving. While I won't talk much about that, That's what I spend my time on, is continuously improving the program. And that is really essential to our success. So using that framework, let's go to the next slide and talk about the first M, which is motivating incentives. I'm sorry, this is not very snazzy slides, but we're not very snazzy up in Maine. We do deliver results though. So we split the marketplace into two. One is replace on burnout. You may have heard it called emergency replacement. This is the same thing. It's when there's a leak in the water heater and the customer goes from having zero interest in water heaters to having an intense interest in water heaters. And that interest is usually over within 24 hours because people don't want to go more than a day without hot water. So the replace on burnout market, we break that into two sub-segments. One is do it yourself, and that's the retail focus. And for incentives, we found that we can win by matching the price of a 40-gallon 6-year electric water heater. Hopefully I can use that acronym in this group. And so we don't win on price, we tie on price, but we win based on the tank size, long showers, warranty, and energy savings. On the replace on burnout via plumber, which is about 2/3 of the market, we focus on distributors, which is where most plumbers in Maine, almost all plumbers buy water heaters through distributors. We actually have to have an incentive that makes the heat pump water heaters $100 less than a 40-gallon 6-year electric resistance water heater, because heat pump water heaters are a burden to plumbers. Plumbers do not like heat pump water heaters. Heat pump water heaters offer no advantages to plumbers. They are a hassle. They are heavier. Heat pump water heaters are heavier, so they have to have an assistant. They're larger, so they don't fit in every spot. They create condensate that needs to be dealt with. If you're a plumber on a short timeline, having to wire, what means electrician, and plumb a condensate line is a hassle. It's not an advantage. And lastly, we've had focus groups with plumbers, and I've spent days in the field shadowing plumbers, and I hang out a lot with plumbers. They're good guys, and they don't want to install a technology that they don't know how to fix. And if most of them are not familiar with refrigeration technology. So until they find the first one breaks and they find out they get a whole new one, they're uncomfortable putting in heat pump water heaters. So plumbers are not our natural allies. They are our allies, but not natural allies. And so we have to win on price. That's the replace on burnout marketplace. That's the numbers I've been telling you, 10,000 heat pump water heaters a year, 1 out of every 14 in the country. What we've not been specifically targeting is what we call the early retirement. That means the water heater is working just fine. And we would like people to take out those perfectly working electric water heaters or gas or oil water heaters we also have, and replace it with a heat pump water heater. That is tougher. That is much, much tougher. And there are two subsegments there. We took a shot at figuring out the do-it-yourself, retail only, and we experimented with a limited time offer and a boatload of marketing, nearly $1 million a year. It'd be tough to drive through Maine without hearing about our heat pump water heater limited time offer. And we focused on the expiration date. That was the experiment that we just finished. I'm going to tell you about the success. And the second subsegment, or the fourth segment, is early retirement by a plumber. And I'll be very honest, we haven't figured that out. We do have success. Some people use our existing program to do that, but not massive success yet. So that remains a mystery. But those are the four segments, and how motivating incentives are used differently for 3 of the 4 segments: either matching price, beating on price, or beating on price a little bit, but having a limited time offer, call to action. That is what we need to get the early retirement list. We need some reason why you should do it now and not next year. Because if we wait till next year, you're going to buy a bass fishing boat instead, and you won't have the money, or you're going to take your kids to Disney World. Something else is going to take up your money. A car repair is going to take up the money, and we'll never win. So that the call to action with expiring offer is the third motivating incentive. We move on to the next slide. We talk about making it easy. This is Francois Lebrasseur told me about 10 times before I finally got it. We use instant discounts at all channels. If you go into a Home Depot or a Lowe's in Maine, you'll see the heat pump water heaters on sale for $13.99. You see a big sign that says $4.49 after instant discount, and it has a QR code. You take your phone, aim it at the code. It takes you to Efficiency Maine's website, and while you're standing in the aisle, you tell us your name and address, your email address, and whether it's residential or commercial use. Either's fine. We just ask which it is. You press enter, and we say check your email. You just got a coupon, and thanks to a portal developed by ClearResult, you get a custom, just for you, a personalized, limited time offer barcode email that comes in email. You take the water heater and your phone down to the checkout counter. They ask for $13.99. You show them your phone. They scan the phone. They say, "Oh, just kidding, $4.49." You pay $4.49. You walk out the door. We know who you are. We can do an evaluation. We can follow up. But you have only had to pay $4.49. You didn't have to pay over $1,000 of money you didn't have. Remember, Maine is a fairly poor state. So having instant discount was really powerful, and we can do it in retail and get the information. Distributors, we learned this from Vermont, they're willing to collect the install address and report that to us, and we pay them for instant discount. So that's how we make it easy. So we talked about motivating, we talked about easy. Let's go on to the next slide and we'll talk about marketing. We went very aggressive for the early retirement. Usually, well, almost exclusively, we focus on the replace on burnout, on where people go when they're looking for water heaters. There's a reason they're looking for water heaters. One's broken, they're going to buy one by the end of the day. We go hang out in stores and internet web searches and any place you would go to buy a water heater, stores, distributors, online, any place. The early retirement was different. We targeted people who were not looking for water heaters. This is an example of a postcard. We sent out thousands of these to people who had bought heat pumps or insulation or some other way we had a relationship. And you can see the pitches: save over $1,000, get a $13.99 heat pump water heater for just $349. Offer ends 3/31/24. And the offer end is an important part of that message. What you want to hear is you need to take action now. We did postcards, we did display ads, which is different than a search ad. These early retirement, they're not searching for a water heater. They don't need a water heater. They're not interested in water heaters. A display ad is when someone's Googling Disney World or something like that. It pops up in other cases. We can segment who gets them, but it's not based on their interests. We did email campaigns to people that we know. We did radio ads. We did YouTube ads. I think we may have one on the next slide. Let's take a look at the next slide. And this is my fault. I tried to have a link to a YouTube video. I could a little too fancy for myself. Oh, there it is. Okay. Joe, do you want to try playing?
Let me see if I can do this. Yeah, this is
if you can, that'd be great. If not, we can skip.
Yep. Okay, so I think I'm okay. 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing here because it opened it up in my browser.
Oh, we've got a video coming. Joe, if you can pull this off, I'll be very impressed.
Okay, I don't know. Don't get too excited. Okay.
Actually, Joe, you have it? Okay,
if you live in Maine and you're replacing your water heater, consider a heat pump water heater. They're easy to install, and with available instant discounts, they're the least expensive to buy. Tens of thousands of Mainers already have them. They're popular because they produce lots of hot water, can save more than $500 per year in electricity, and help dehumidify. They're now as low as $349 after instant discount. Offer ends March 31st, 2024. Visit efficiencymaine.com to find the best prices in Maine. If you live...
Well done, Joe.
Well, yep, that's why they paid me the big bucks. Okay, let me go back to sharing.
Yes, 3 cheers for Joe. Okay. That was excellent. So that's an example of the marketing. We jump on to the next slide. Well, that's come. I'll just tell you. It says supported, and we have ClearResult field staff team that goes into every store and every distributor every week. They train the store staff on how to help customers download those instant discount barcodes. We've got retail hours, tech support. So if someone goes in on a Saturday afternoon, most heat pump water heaters are bought outside of business hours. They have trouble with our portal. They call Efficiency Maine, and someone from ClearResult will step them through how to get that or email it to them. And if they don't have a phone, we'll email it to someone in the store and they can get the discount that way. So lots of support. And we also help retailers ensure adequate inventory. We had, well, I'm going to get to the results, but the results were mind-boggling. Next slide says continuous improvement. I told you about that. We also have secret shoppers, friends and family. Go whenever they buy heat pump water heaters, they tell us how their experience went, and we monitor calls. When someone calls in with a question or a problem, we listen to those calls and try and track what's causing the problems. I'm going to go to the next slide and talk about the results. We had a very successful program before this. We were able to increase sales at stores sixfold. Remember, we had the #1 program in the country, and I just said we increased sixfold, not 6 water heaters and not 6%, 600%. So we were doing 50 instant discount barcode downloads per week. We drove that to over 300. And you can see these are the real numbers. We had stores selling as many as 30 heat pump water heaters per week. You can write that down. 30 per store, not retailer, store per week. That is giant. If you think about all the stores that Lowe's and Home Depot have, between them, they have about 4,000 stores. If they could do 30 per store for 1 week, like we did, that'd be 120,000 heat pump water heaters in 1 week. Energy Star says there were 140,000 all last year, all channels, retail, distributor. So it was big, and we're a little state, so that was a lot. So that next slide is the conclusion slide. I showed before the replace on burnout, it's price parity and marketing to seekers, going down that replace on burnout column. Via plumber, I told you, has to be favorable plumbing, favorable pricing, and we promote via distributors. What's new is this limited time offer. That's critical, not just brute force pricing, but it has to be something that's going to expire, a reason to take action now and not wait. And we focused on those not looking for a water heater. That's why we did display ads, mail, email, radio, and YouTube. And that is what we wanted to share. And I thank Joe for the opportunity to share this. And I hope that this helps others move a lot more heat pump water heaters than we're moving now.
Thanks, Sandy. Wow, that is awesome stuff. I feel like I need to have a reaction here with applause for that. So really exciting, the 300% increase. And so I guess my first question for you, and then and folks, please raise your hand for some questions for Andy. What are, if it's a limited time offer and you saw that big growth, how much do you plan to replicate this? Do you want to do, are you going to do it every 6 months? Are you going to do you know how often you'll do this?
It's another thing we learned from Francois de Brasseur is you can repeat them. They have to expire, but you can repeat them. So we haven't figured out how often we're going to do it. It might be something like 1 month a quarter. It'd be nice. You can't have them back to back. That's not limited time. It's not true. But we're going to experiment with that, and maybe the stores are still restocking inventory right now. By the way, we were moving them like crazy. So we will repeat them with some type of frequency, and we'll make mistakes and we'll learn and we'll get better at it. We don't have the answer for the best frequency yet.
Chris is wondering in the chat, and then we'll go to the hands raised. Do you get many people switching with boilers switching to standalone heat pump water heaters? It means you don't have to run your boiler during the summer. Do you have any stats on how many folks are like the oil fired customers?
Yes, and I can't remember. 50% are electric to electric, and then the other 50% is split with oil, propane if you're not connected to the pipeline, or natural gas. It's something like that. It's a harder sell to switch people off of the boiler, because that's pretty close to free hardware wise. It's very expensive oil wise, but most of these are replacing standalone tanks.
Got it. Great. My colleague Noah has his hand up. Go ahead, Noah.
Hey, thanks, Joe. And great presentation, Andy. Really awesome. Wanted to ask quick. So for the DIY, does that mean no plumber, no electrician on site? People are doing this completely on their own. And if that's the case, how are they managing like electrical infrastructure stuff or, doing pipe fitting and all that?
About 1/3 of water heaters in Maine are installed by homeowners, and they do it very well. there's not a lot to a water heater, as you probably know, Noah. It's cold water and electricity goes in, hot water and condensate comes out. So most of the cases they're replacing an electrical water heater, so the wiring's already there. But so a third of water heaters, as I said, are done by homeowners, and they do a very nice job.
Awesome. Okay, so that's mostly just electric resistance to 240, where you're
That's
not
right.
changing much. But yeah, probably need a
That's
plumber for the fuel switching, right?
Not really. That's slightly more complicated. Maybe it's just the nature of Mainers, but Mainers are pretty clever on this. A lot of people build their own homes or make additions themselves. Still need a permit, but local building inspector will help out. But no, it's coming off my house. A friend helped me with mine. I've helped 3 other friends, and I'm not any good at water heater installs. It's fairly straightforward. We use sharp bite fittings. It's pretty similar to the complexity of an extension cord. You want to make sure you're following code, but it's not complex. Condensate's probably the most complex thing there is, and that can be straightforward. If we have a lot of wet basements in Maine, so a lot of basements have sump holes already. You can drain to that. You don't even need a condensate pump.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Great. All right, we've got some rapid fires. So we got questions in the chat. Let's try to do these kind of rapid fire, and then we'll go to some of the hands. Cooper's asking, can you please share some marketing metrics, cost per impression, per click, per heat pump water heater purchase? Anything you can share on the cost?
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head. We were spending at the peak $70,000 a month for our Google bill. So we were putting some serious money behind it.
Okay, thanks. Are you concerned about the DIYers, whether the water heaters will perform as hoped?
No. Maybe I should have pointed out, we rebated 60,000 heat pump water heaters in a state that only has 180,000 water heaters. So about a third of all water heaters in the state of Maine are heat pump water heaters, and about a third of those are been done DIY. So I don't have any concerns.
Okay, thanks. Are there any requirements for licensure, for licenses?
Yes, if you're going to charge someone to put in heat pump water heater in Maine, you need to be a licensed plumber. And if you're going to charge someone to do electrical work in Maine, you need to be a licensed electrician. You have to pull a permit and make all those changes. If you're doing it for yourself, you still have to do it by code, but you don't have to have a licensed plumber or electrician in the state of Maine to do work for free on your own house.
Okay, great. Eva Rooks is wondering, what was learned from secret shoppers, their experiences, if anything? Yeah.
We learn so much from secret shoppers. I'm actually embarrassed to tell you, but we had at one point a list of plumbers, and we didn't sort them by number of heat pump water heaters. And we had secret shopper, 2 of them called in and said, hey, just so you know, I called the top 3 in your list, and all 3 of them told us that heat pump water heaters don't work in Maine. Oh, that was embarrassing. We should have found that out. We now sort our list by whatever plumber has put in the most heat pump water heaters, and our secret shoppers don't have that problem anymore. I could tell you stories all day long about what we learned from secret shoppers. It's embarrassing, but very, very enlightening. Hopefully that helps.
That's great. Jeff Howard, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff Howard in Connecticut. Just a quick question. I don't think I heard you mention, maybe I missed it, 120 volt units, part of your picture?
We don't have any 120 volt heat pump water heaters in Maine. We'd look forward to having them, but they've not been part of our, and they're eligible for our rebates, but we don't have any in Maine that I'm aware of.
Okay. Eric, who runs programs in Oregon, who introduced himself, wanted if you could just offer a couple more specifics on how you're ensuring there's no double dipping using instant get discount and rebate application.
Yeah, it's Vermont figured this out, and it is frighteningly elegant. I'm going to see if I can pull it up while we're talking. What the punchline is, if you ask for a mail-in rebate, we ask to see your receipt from the retailer or from your plumber's wholesaler, but not from the plumber. So we can see it's pretty obvious. Our rebate's big enough. You're not going to buy a $400 heat pump water heater at a retail store without our incentive. We know you got the incentive. It's nearly $1,000 incentive. And plumbers are not going to, plumbers getting the same deal, they're not going to share their wholesaler receipt with the homeowner. So we're very clear that heat pump water heaters that received an instant discount are not eligible for the mail-in rebate. And as I said under 5%. I think it's 3 or 4% of heat pump water heaters in Maine get the mail-in rebate. Almost all of them get the instant discount. And that, my credits to Vermont on that. They figured that out. I would never have even tried that, but it's worked flawlessly.
Okay, we've got a couple other quick questions, and then we'll turn it over to Chris. Are there any training supports and resources alongside the incentives? I imagine for installers.
That's a good question. We could spend a lot of time on that. We've worked very hard to not introduce complexity that is unnecessary. And heat pump water heaters are mind-numbingly simple. They're not as easy as an LED light bulb, but we work very hard. We don't talk about ducting because we don't support ducting. Every plumber in Maine can do a heat pump water heater without any training at all. They know how to do this. They're very good. It's not much to a heat pump water heater. And part of our success has been not inflating the complexity of heat pump water heaters. And as I said, we've got 60,000 over the last 10 plus years, and they're working just fine. So no, we don't offer any training for licensed plumbers on how to put in a water heater. And we don't offer any training actually even for homeowners. That's an area we stay out of. That's up to the homeowner to decide if they feel comfortable. We don't encourage self-install, and we don't discourage it. We stay out of that. And it's helped us have an easier program for people to participate in.
Great, thanks for that. I think that answers Amy's question in the chat. Maybe one last question from Tom. In California, the plumber is allowed to install the electric circuit to the water heater as quote unquote ancillary work. Is that the case in Maine too?
I don't know the full answer. We have work like that for boilers. A boiler technician can touch the electricity, but there's some rule about if you have to go back to the panel, that has to be a licensed electrician. The boiler techs are not supposed to be in panels. If there's already a wire out to the boiler, you don't need an electrician to take it off the old boiler, put on a new one. But I'm not exactly sure how that works in Maine for heat pump water heaters.
Okay, great. Well, Pepper's asking one last question. If there's, if the focus is on not adding complexity to installers or homeowners, how do installers know how to size a heat pump water heater well? You think they just figure it out?
I'm going to say again, we don't spend time making heat pump water heaters more complex than they are. The typical plumber does the sizing over the phone. He asks, how big is your current water heater? And the homeowner says, I don't know, I've never seen the water heater. And the plumber comes over and he puts in a 40-gallon. So the fact that we're putting in 50-gallon heat pump water heaters, they're almost all sized bigger than what was there before. So we don't add any complexity on the sizing of a water heater. People have been putting in water heaters in Maine for decades, and it's not that complex.
Cool. Great. Yeah, for sure. And Sandy, yes, we'll be putting these recordings on our new YouTube channel. Thanks so much, Andy. Wow, we could just sit here and pepper you with questions all day. Thanks for taking time in your busy day. Huge, round of applause and thank you for being with us today. So
thanks for the work that you do, Joe, and I wish the best of success for everyone. I hope you will learn from our mistakes and have an easier time to come on in the water is fine. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it a ton.